HHE Herbert's 100 harem. Holy power outages. Batman, that one lasted hours. So what do you think her defense will be? Herbert asks Officer Stouthide, who simply shrugs. He's at the station, but as the gunner is currently speaking with her lawyer, they're not watching her or recording her. There is a right to privacy in this scenario. Couldn't tell you. What evidence we have is damning. The communicator you gave me has the conversation recorded, a standard feature for the model. Same with pretty much any undaunted communicator as well. In fact, I assumed it was universal until my intelligence training began. It still blows my mind that you openly admit to being a spy, she says, and he laughs. That's the beauty of it. It's a perfect double bluff. Or even a catch-22, he says. I understand double bluff, but what's a catch-22? It's a reference that took on a meaning. Basically, a catch-22 is an order or state of events impossible to complete under its own rules. Basically, any problem where the answer to the problem is something the problem prevents. Like having a higher-ranking officer who's a stickler for rules and obedience ordering you to do something against the rules, Stouthide says, and Herbert nods. Exactly. In my case, I'm an obvious distraction, but I'm also obviously a big problem. But anytime anyone even slightly aware of how subterfuge and sabotage words takes even a passing glance at me, they find themselves paralyzed with indecision. Because I'm such an obvious distraction, but also such an obvious threat that they can't afford to watch me, but also can't afford to ignore me. It's a social mind game, he says, and she thinks about it for a moment before shaking her head as she starts to go cross-eyed. Yeah, that's a pretty normal reaction. Generally, you know something's a catch-22 when thinking about it too much makes you do that. Can we go back to looking up Miss Shooter's ID, please? Chitter asks from Stouthide's other side. I haven't stopped working on it, miss, Officer Stouthide says, scrolling through images. Hold it, Herbert says, and Officer Stouthide pauses the search. He points to the top left of the screen. Look! There is some resemblance, Officer Stouthide says, bringing up the image of the Tret. Maribel Jet, centrist native and in her 40s. Give her a nose job and suck out the baby fat, and we have the same woman, Herbert says as he looks at the almost African-looking face. The picture is old, registering to a woman that's going through her teens the first time. Trouble for a fight. Nothing afterwards, but current address has her living in gang territory. That record is way too clean, Herbert remarks. Excuse me? Chitter asks. No, he's right. This record is nearly spotless. We're not allowed to persecute certain types of crimes because they're ubiquitous. Things like jaywalking and minor traffic violations. But most spies still have the equipment to record them happening and register it. Really? She's talking about the stuff so petty that even the worst, most anal retentive and harsh judge wouldn't hit someone with on their worst day, Herbert says. Then why is it being recorded? Chitter asks. Because it's too good a tool to have to legally track down every living citizen. There are outs, but you have to request them directly, and for you to do that, you need to know about this to begin with. Herbert explains. Mr. Jameson here has an automated spam request to every spire and plate to wipe his record on non-criminal charges, which is what these are referred to as. So most officers that do some computer time know him on site as we have to manually do so. All right, let's be fair. I've trimmed that algorithm to only hit the spires and plates I go to, Herbert says. I know, but you show up here often enough, it acts like spam. I, an intelligence officer, do not like my movements being traced. What a concept, Herbert remarks in his driest tone, which, due to it still being the cherubic voice he had at 12, means it comes out as a seriously mixed message. All right, Junior, calm down, Officer Stouthide states as she examines the picture. This was not the ID she gave us. I'll wager that if we look around her place of residence, we'll find a few stashes with varied IDs. The woman is clearly a contract killer, and having your name in the system, or your work name at any rate, is a bad thing, Herbert explains. Of course, I've messed with that as well. Private Stream is growing infamous. I'd say more famous. The adorable, endlessly helpful little boy that's eager to please. Everyone who spent official time around humans has a Private Stream story, all of them as funny as they are cute, Officer Stouthide says with a smile. Well, thank you, Herbert says. It's hilarious how far Private Stream has come. That persona is some of my best work yet. Now, why are you certain our shooter is this woman? She asks. I'm not completely sure, but I'm certain enough that the moment I saw that profile, I thought it was hers. Do we know when the request to remove her non-criminal charges was put in? Herbert asks, and Officer Stouthide inputs the request. 10 years ago, and nothing since. And there's nothing in the way of a missing persons report or report of death. If what you told me is true, then her profile should be full of the tiny infractions if she isn't dead or missing, Chitter says. That's reason number 2. The profile is extremely suspicious, Herbert says before laughing. It's not as Bell-like as the Earthany produce, but it brings out a similar feeling. It's a common mistake for people making fake IDs and such. They dot every I, cross every T, and forget that real people make mistakes. They what and what? Oh, sorry, it's a turn of phrase for saying they get everything right. But no one does. If an identity looks too good to be true, it probably is. Someone that hasn't so much as jaywalked or technically loitered in 10 years? Yeah, right. Tell me another one, Herbert explains, and Officer Stouthide nods. You're right. Even if this isn't our gunner, this is strange enough to warrant investigating, Officer Stouthide says as she flags the profile for investigation. Now an alert pops up showing her that a profile has just requested for its non-criminal charges to be erased. She selects it and smirks as Herbert's profile comes up. She slowly turns to look at him, and he looks away while innocently whistling. Excuse me, may I have a minute? A voice asks, and Officer Stouthide looks the other way to see another officer leaning in. What's this about Nayla? She asks the Panzeros woman. It's about the woman you brought in, and it's not for civilians. Both of you in the hall, please. Allow me to introduce Sister Dropshell of the Synthetic Ascendants and Agent Jameson of the Undaunted, the man primarily responsible for me grabbing the shooter. Really? It was him that fended her off and distracted her as his own forces came around from the side to capture her alive and unharmed. He then peacefully transferred her to our custody, Officer Stouthide says as Herbert holds up his ID for Nayla to prowl over on all fours and see. Oh, I see. Well, that's interesting. I do need to talk to you in private, though. She insists. What's the matter? Too much Medita again? Officer Stouthide asks as Chitter gets up and begins making for the door. Oh, you know me. I always have a few too many, Nayla says, and Stouthide's barrier goes up in a flash, and she draws a shock pistol on the Panzeros. Taking his cue from the officer, Herbert blitzes her fast, and the woman is already ready for a fight. He dodges claws even as she dodges the electrical blast from Stouthide and draws her own weapon. Before she can pull the trigger, a tri-tight needle punctures the main body through the barrel and compromises the weapon. Are you fucking... She begins to demand before catching Stouthide's next blast in her face. She staggers back and collapses, out cold due to the taser strike. Okay, the fuck was that about? Herbert asks. Nayla hates Medita with a passion. Too much for her as someone opening a jar of the stuff while she's in the room, Officer Stouthide states as she approaches the intruder with Axiom scrambling cuffs and restrains her. While this happens, Herbert quickly pats her down and finds a small device in the fur of her collar. As he pulls out the small black box that looks like jewelry, forms the right angle and removes the clasp on the chain. As he does so, the fur and features of the Panzeros shift and her Axiom presence alters. Nice, these are finicky little things. Whoever sent her went for the top shelf stuff, Herbert says before flicking the small necklace toward her. We need to start searching for the actual Nayla. That device only works if they have the person it's copying wearing a matching device, and I doubt Nayla is wearing it willingly. That sends Officer Stouthide scrambling to get the station on alert as Herbert frowns. The hairs on the back of his neck may be downy things right now, but they're standing straight. He moves through the station, Chitter following him for lack of any guidance on what to do in this situation as he shifts through the area. Hold it! What are you? A Kruger officer shouts to him and he doesn't stop. The timing is too convenient. I'm going to help secure the sniper that was brought in, Herbert calls back. That sets off all sorts of alarms in that officer's head, and she follows after him, which means he has a techno-priestess lobster Tor and a literal ape woman cop for immediate backup. He's done more with less. The door to the gunner's room opens and she emerges while dressed in a police uniform. "Hold it! You're not one of us!" The Kruger officer protests as she suddenly shifts how she's running and goes at it ape-style to pick up speed. The shooter dodges the first massive fist and is forced to take her eyes off Herbert, which is a massive tactical mistake as he promptly introduces his boot to the back of her knees. She staggers and the officer slams her chin with an uppercut that sends her into the ceiling to knock out a light and dropping to the floor completely unconscious. "Hands up, lady!" Herbert growls at her lawyer, with a Jack Tech plasma pistol out and growling as he jams the gun in her stomach. Her hands go up and the massive officer looms above them both. "Good reflexes, Tiny." The officer compliments him. "Hell of a punch, big girl." He volleys back and there's an amused snort as the gunner is quickly tied up and then the lawyer is also arrested. As the officer reads the woman her rights, Herbert steps to the side and considers. "Chitter, stay with the big woman. I think something else is still up and need to move fast and potentially into danger." Herbert just says and he gets a look from the officer. "Can you elaborate, kid?" she asked. "I'm afraid not. This is raw instinct telling me that this isn't done yet. But I have nothing to prove it or point to," he answers as he looks around. Front of the station. It's there. He moves as he trusts his sense. Sir Philip helped him develop it, and while it's not as refined, he homes in on the sense the moment he enters the room and he withdraws a disruption needle and launches it. There is a scream as a large Zedden is suddenly revealed stalking through the station. "I officially request your surrender," he states as everything pauses for a moment. There is a snarl on her mouth, but the axiom dancing over her crest tells him another story. He's confused her. She recognizes him, but cannot recall from where. All the practice with his wives and their families has made the Dizadan an open book. "And if I don't?" she asks, pulling out the needle, and he smiles widely as it's dropped to the ground. "I'll be glad to hunt you down," he replies. She then holds up all four of her arms. "I hereby most definitely, undoubtedly, formally surrender." Then she vanishes in a recall teleport. "Someone properly bag that disruption needle. It has her DNA on it," Herbert orders, and things start moving again.